Mitla, the city of the dead, cemetery of the Zapotec kings and high priests, and chief sanctuary of Pitao Beselao, the Zapotec god of death and the underworld. For centuries, generations of archaeologists have searched in vain for the lost tombs of the Zapotec kings, inside a labyrinth of subterranean chambers and tunnels said to exist deep beneath the site, visited every day by hundreds of tourists. Now, with the use of state-of-the-art geophysical methods and remote prospection techniques, a joint international expedition is revealing for the first time the secrets of the lost underworld of Mitla. In the 8th century AD, Mitla took over Monte Alban as the main center of Zapotec civilization. From its obscure origins in the first centuries of our era, Mitla grew into a city of magnificent palaces and temples, rivaling in size and splendor the great cities of the Maya and the Toltecs. Enormous stone blocks, weighing up to 50 tons, were used in the constructions of Mitla, allowing many of the city's ancient buildings to survive almost intact until today. Archaeologists have so far identified 5 main groups of structures at Mitla, labeled the Church Group, the Columns Group, the Adobe, Arroyo, and South Group. These sprawling compounds are characterized by a similar ground plan, consisting of a set of interconnected patios with raised platforms and long rooms on each side. The earlier groups, like the Calvario and the South Group, were inspired by the earlier Zapotec architecture of sites like Monte Alban, and included a pyramid facing a large open plaza with an altar in the center. The later groups, such as the Church Group and the Columns Group, contain a profusion of architectural decorations, consisting of complex geometric fretwork friezes called grecas, formed of thousands of precisely cut stone pieces fitted together without mortar in a variety of different mosaic patterns and designs. Deep beneath the palaces of Mitla, massive stone chambers were dug out of the living bedrock to house the mortal remains of the Zapotec kings and high priests. These chambers are generally in the shape of a cross and are entered by means of a stone stairway and an antechamber. Only 2 such monumental tombs have been found, both located in the southern patio of the Columns Group, their contents having long ago disappeared. In 1674, the Dominican friar Francisco de Burgoa compiled one of the most complete early descriptions of the ruins of Mitla in his encyclopedic work Geographica Descripción. In the archives of the Mexican Inquisition in the city of Oaxaca, Burgoa found a fabulous account of an exploration conducted over a century before by a group of Spanish priests and soldiers of a mysterious subterranean labyrinth under the city of Mitla, said to contain the tombs of generations of Zapotec kings and high priests. Thus writes Father Burgoa in his account of the ruins of Mitla. When some monks of my order passed, preaching and shriving, through the province of Zapoteca, they came to a village which was called Mictlan, that is, Underworld. They told of buildings which were prouder and more magnificent than any which they had hitherto seen in New Spain. Among them was a temple of the evil spirits, and living rooms for his demoniacal servants. And among other fine things, there was a hall with ornamented panels, which were constructed of stone in a variety of arabesques and other very remarkable designs. There were doorways there, each one of which was built of but 3 stones, and there was another hall in these buildings, which was erected entirely on round stone pillars, very high and very thick, made of one piece. The whole structure is very old, and no one knows who made it. Burgoa himself visited one of the still-standing palaces of Mitla, which he called the Palace of the Living and the Dead, and was formerly used as a residence by the high priest. The Palace of the Living and the Dead was built for the use of the high priest of the Zapotecs. They built this magnificent house or pantheon in the shape of a rectangle, with portions rising above the ground and portions built down into the earth, the latter in the hole or a cavity which was found below the surface, and ingeniously made the chambers of equal size by the manner of joining them, leaving a spacious court in the middle. I carefully examined these monuments 30 years ago in the chambers above ground, which are constructed of the same size and in the same way as those below ground. There were 4 chambers above ground and 4 below. The latter were arranged in such a way that one front chamber served as a chapel and sanctuary for the idols, which were placed on a great stone which served as an altar. There the high priest descended with a great retinue. The second underground chamber was the burial place of these high priests. The third, that of the kings of Tezcatlan, whom they brought thither richly dressed in their best attire, feathers, jewels, golden necklaces and precious stones, placing a shield in the left hand and a javelin in the right. The last underground chamber had a second door at the rear, which led to a dark and gruesome room. This was closed with a stone slab, which occupied the whole entrance. Through this door, they threw the bodies of the victims and of the great lords and chieftains who had fallen in battle. Many, who were oppressed by diseases or hardships, begged this infamous priest to accept them as living sacrifices and allow them to enter through that portal and roam about in the dark interior of the mountain to seek the feasting places of their forefathers. On account of this terrible abyss, they called this village Lyobaa. When later there fell upon these people the light of the gospel, its servants took much trouble to instruct them and to find out whether this error still prevailed. And they learned from the stories which had been handed down that this damp cavern extended more than 30 leagues underground, and its roof was supported by pillars. And there were people, zealous prelates, anxious for knowledge, who, in order to convince these people of their error, went into this cave accompanied by a large number of people bearing lighted torches and firebrands, and descended several large steps. And they soon came upon many great buttresses, which formed a kind of street. They had prudently brought a quantity of rope with them to use as guiding line, that they may not lose themselves in this confusing labyrinth. And the putrefaction and the bad odor and the dampness of the earth were very great, and there was also cold wind which blew out their torches. And after they had gone a short distance, fearing to be overpowered by the stench, they resolved to go out again and to completely wall up this back door of hell. The 4 buildings above ground were the only ones which still remained open, and they had a court and chambers like those underground, and the ruins of these have lasted even to the present day. Many believe that the entrance to Burgoa's underground labyrinth may be found under the altar of the Catholic Church, erected in the 16th century above the ruins of an ancient Zapotec temple. In 2022, an international team formed of experts from the Mexican National Institute of History and Anthropology, the National Autonomous University of Mexico, and the ARX Association for Archaeological Research and Exploration set out on a project to scan the site of Mitla with the help of state-of-the-art geophysical equipment, in an attempt to corroborate the ancient accounts and modern traditions that speak of an extensive network of subterranean tunnels and chambers deep beneath the site. Project Lyobaa was green-lighted by the INAH in December of 2021 and formally kicked off in May of 2022. Based on the results of this first research season, a second season was authorized in April of 2023, with fieldwork taking place between the months of September and October. For the first time in Mexico, 3 different geophysical methods were used in order to create a complete 3D image of the subsoil of Mitla. These included ground-penetrating radar, electrical resistivity tomography, and seismic noise tomography. All these methods are entirely non-invasive, as they do not require any type of excavation or disturbance of the ancient structure. Ground-penetrating radar, or GPR, uses radar pulses to image the subsurface, collecting the reflected signals from buried structures. GPR can be used to detect the subterranean objects, changes in material properties, as well as natural voids and cracks. Electrical resistivity tomography, or ERT, allows to image subsurface structures through electrical resistivity measurements conducted through electrodes inserted in the ground or through metal plates put in direct contact with the surface. Finally, seismic noise tomography employs geophones to measure the speed at which seismic waves propagate through the ground as they move through mediums of different densities. The Church Group, located in the northern part of the site, was the first to be investigated with geophysical methods in 2022 and then again in 2023. This group consists of 3 interconnected patios surrounded by rectangular structures. The foundations of the walls are of large, finely cut stones, whereas the walls themselves are largely built of adobe and smaller stones. Huge monolithic lintels, some over 5 meters long, bridge the width of the doorways. In the southernmost patio of the church group, a Catholic church dedicated to San Pablo Apostol was built in the late 16th century, partially reusing the ancient structures. This is particularly evident near the apse of the church, whose walls rest directly on top of a set of 3 walled-up openings surmounted by huge monolithic lintels. During the colonial period, the structures of this group served as the habitation of the Catholic clergy of Mitla, with some buildings used as sleeping quarters, kitchens, and stables. An orchard and herbal garden was also created to the east of the church. In order to see directly beneath the church, the team employed an arrangement of 46 geophones arranged in a horseshoe shape around the eastern half of the church, including the sacristy and the apse. The geophones revealed an area with low seismic velocities, compatible with the existence of a large void or cavity directly underneath the main altar of the Catholic Church. These potential voids show up as blue or light blue areas in the computer-generated image obtained by interpolating data from each array of connected geophones. Here we can see how a large void under the altar appears to be connected to another similarly oriented void located farther west at a significantly greater depth. The size, depth, and orientation of the voids may be better appreciated, as well as that of two possible connecting vertical shafts or passages. Along the north wall of the church, a second system of interconnected chambers was detected at depths of up to 15 meters below ground, indicated with the letters B1 to B3. These chambers are smaller in size than those located directly under the church, measuring approximately 4 to 5 meters across. Finally, a third system of passages that may be connected to the large void under the church can be seen extending from the church in an easterly direction, with a possible connecting tunnel running in a north-south direction at a relatively shallow depth. In 2023, a new ERT scan confirmed the existence of a possible north-south tunnel, connecting a set of east-west oriented cavities under the church group. To determine the southernmost extent of the tunnel system, the research perimeter was expanded in 2023 to include the area between the church group and the columns group, revealing a further set of possible east-west oriented cavities and what appears to be a tunnel headed in the direction of the church. Notably, the disposition of these apparent cavities under the church group, being located to the north, south, east, and directly under the Catholic Church, matches Burgoa's description of 4 interconnected chambers communicating with a large natural cavern. This newly created map can also help identify possible access points for future research and exploration of the ancient tunnel system beneath the site. A little further south, the columns group is perhaps the most emblematic ancient structure at Mitla. It consists of 2 large patios, known as the Patio of the Columns and the Patio of Tombs. To the north of the Patio of the Columns stands the palace, Mitla's most representative and emblematic structure. This vast T-shaped building is approached by a monumental stairway on its south side, leading into a large transversal hall with 6 monolithic columns, originally supporting a wooden roof. Each monolithic column is 5 meters high and weighs over 20 tons. A small doorway in the northern wall gives access to the innermost courtyard of the palace, known as the Patio de las Grecas, on account of its beautiful stone mosaics. 4 side chambers open on each side of the patio, also decorated with elegant mosaic fretwork and geometric designs. Until recently, it was believed that this palace had been created as an elite residence between 950 and 1200 AD. GPR and electrical resistivity scans of the main stairway and the hall of columns conducted by the Project Lyobaa research team have since revealed evidence of an earlier construction phase, with a monumental entrance stairway located approximately 6 meters further north of the present entrance. The study also revealed what may be the foundations of an earlier entrance portico with 2 doorways, located directly underneath the northern wall of the Hall of Columns. These findings suggest that the original structure of the palace may have been rectangular-shaped, with a frontal stairway giving access to a raised longitudinal chamber, instead of the present arrangement of 4 rooms around a central patio. Further scans conducted in the patio facing the palace revealed a different arrangement of this ceremonial space with an earlier, larger altar and other rectangular anomalies near the patio's southwest corner, which may be interpreted as the foundations of walls extending down to a depth of at least 1.5 meters. Compared to the church group and the columns group, which are visited every day by hundreds of tourists, the smaller Aro Group does not nearly receive the same amount of attention. This may change if the results of a new geophysical survey are confirmed, The Aro Group resembles the church group in its spatial configuration, consisting of 3 connected patios named G to I. The structures of this group have suffered greatly from the uncontrolled growth of the modern town and centuries of abandonment, having lost nearly all their original decoration. In part because of that, this group offers, however, unique insights into the construction techniques employed by the ancient builders of Mitla. The palaces were built on a foundation of finely dressed stone blocks, with the bulk of the walls consisting largely of adobe and smaller stones. The monolithic lintels placed above the doorways, each over 4 meters long and weighing between 10 and 15 tons, were held together by mortise and tenon joints, which are still visible in many places. The Aro Group was scanned using all 3 geophysical methods, revealing a number of interesting subterranean features. Most notable under the first patio is a possible tunnel heading east-west at a depth of between 2.5 and 4 meters, connecting to 2 possible chambers or cavities. In the second patio, the ERT scan similarly revealed a small void, measuring approximately 3 by 1.5 meters, that could be a tomb. Other low-resistivity areas, shown in blue and green colors in the computer-generated model, may suggest further blocked up or filled-in passages and chambers. Located immediately to the northwest of the Aro Group, the Adobe Group was once one of the largest and most important groups of structures at Mitla. Nowadays, it consists of a very ruined 12 meters high pyramid, on top of which a small brick chapel called the Calvario was built in the 17th century. The pyramid had its main stairway facing west, towards a large plaza with smaller platforms on each side and an altar in the center. Both the ERT and seismic scans conducted during the 2023 campaign show that the pyramid has a solid core, likely resting on the natural bedrock. Both to the north and south of this solid rock core, the seismic scan shows areas characterized by much lower seismic velocities that may be indicative of potential natural or artificial cavities. The same also clearly shows in the ERT scan, which moreover hints to possible smaller voids within the body of the pyramid itself, particularly near its southeast corner, where a huge monolithic lintel may be seen. In the plaza facing the pyramid, the ERT scan further revealed what appears to be a set of interconnected chambers and tunnels, showing up in green in the computer-generated image as low-resistivity areas. One of these chambers, indicated with the letter A, appears to be of regular shape, being roughly square with sides measuring between 4 and 5 meters long, located at a depth of about 4 meters below ground. An east-west oriented tunnel may also be seen heading from this chamber towards the Calvario pyramid. Finally, the last part of the site to be investigated with geophysical methods was the South Group, located right across the river from the other structures. The South Group is likely the oldest in Mitla, and also the most damaged, having nearly completely disappeared under the modern sprawl. The only visible structure is a large pyramid called El Mogote, rising like a small hill nearly 15 meters high. The core of the pyramid is formed largely of adobe, but also contains stone partition walls which likely serve to give it greater stability. To the south of the pyramid, a partially filled-in cavity, possibly a natural cave, may be seen, making it likely that larger voids could exist under the main pyramid and other parts of this group. In order to map out these cavities, a perimeter of some 300 meters was defined along the edge of the South Group, along which 66 geophones were planted spaced about 5 meters from each other. Upon processing, the seismic data from the geophones shows several large cavities appearing in blue as low-velocity anomalies directly underneath the main pyramid, with other possible cavities located farther west. These cavities appear to be of very large size and extend to a considerable depth of over 30 meters, strongly hinting at the possibility that the whole South Group was built on top of a natural cave system. Overall, the geophysical scans conducted in the 2022 and 2023 seasons confirmed the existence of several large unexplored subterranean cavities under the Catholic Church and the main ancient groups of structures at Mitla. Only future research will determine whether these cavities are natural or artificial, and whether they form part of a large cave system extending perhaps for miles under the ancient site, as claimed by Burgoa. It may be possible to drill small test holes in different parts of the site to insert probes with cameras and thus confirm if an ancient subterranean labyrinth does indeed exist under the archaeological site and the modern town of Mitla. This research may not only lead to the discovery of the final resting place of the Zapotec kings, but also provide important information for managing seismic and geological risks in an area frequently subject to destructive earthquakes, like the two that hit the region in 2017 and 2019, causing a large number of casualties and significant damage to the historical and cultural heritage of this part of Mexico. Moreover, the discovery of an earlier entrance stairway underneath the main hall of the Palace of the Columns may help demonstrate that Mitla was already an important religious center, centuries before its apogee in the 12th to 14th centuries of our era. Confirming the findings from an earlier 2018 geophysical survey of the area immediately to the north of the church group, the 2023 season of Project Lyobaa produced evidence of a catastrophic landslide that may have been responsible for the destruction and burial of large parts of the ancient city of Mitla, shortly before the time of the Aztec conquest of the region. Such a hypothesis may explain the reason for the seeming abandonment and decadence of Mitla as a political and religious center in the later part of the 15th century. Only future research will tell what other secrets lie buried beneath this fascinating and mysterious site. In thanking all the members of the Lyobaa Research Project, we wish to dedicate this research to the memory of Dr. Esteban Hernández Quintero, who sadly passed away this past month of June. He is fondly remembered by his family and colleagues who had the pleasure and privilege of working with him.